Hey ACE students, congratulations on finishing your thesis and the ACE program. That is a great accomplishment. So what do you have to tell the ACE students of the future about writing a thesis? What is the one most important piece of advice you can possibly give them? And if you could go back in time, what is the most important piece of advice that you would give yourself in starting this process? What do you wish you knew then that you know now? Share that with us, and again, congratulations, you did a great job.
It would be better if I started earlier, like using the winter break to collect the data and do some regression, because it is only when I started to gather the data around the regression and do the literature review, I started to realize it's very time consuming and it's very demanding, but there is not much time left there to do the whole project, because we are also in the semester and we have also other courses and other projects. So I think it would be better if I could go back and use the winter break time to do some preparation.
First, start looking for inspiration earlier, especially better in the first semester of senior year, and have at least a basic research direction. And also, if you don't have a clear idea yet, I suggest you to start from a little data set first and then build a realistic topic around it. And that will make the whole process much more convenient and smoother. Thank you.
The result is not a priority of the thesis, and don't let it to constrain your topic selection or your argument. You just need to honestly and transparently do a rigorous research and report your results, and that is enough.
You will have to rewrite so many times the same thing over and over, and I discovered that the most important part is not finding the perfect verb to apply it next to a specific word, or but it's more following the narrative. So keeping in mind that you have a reader, that you have to show your findings and your research purposes.
Have started preparing much earlier. At first, I thought once I had a topic and the general framework, the rest of writing would go very smoothly. But when I actually started writing, there were so many challenges. So if I had another chance, I would start earlier and really take the time to nail everything down.
Knowing that just because you might not love math and feel confident in Excel doesn't mean you necessarily should choose a qualitative study. Qualitative study can actually be much more difficult to write, even though you're not running a regression. So yeah, I just caution you about wanting to do a qualitative study.
Is the amount of time you should take to really develop a really nice idea that fits the criteria, the correct scope, the size, nothing too specific, nothing too broad, but have that foundation built in advance. So when you start to get the ball rolling and writing your thesis, you're not left with a topic that you are unfamiliar with and less motivated by. I think finding the right topic at the beginning that fits the criteria will set you up for the best success.
Learning is the critical importance of methodology. Specifically, I wish I had a clear understanding of which analytical framework to use for data processing and how to align my research questions with the right statistical method. Navigating the complexities of data analysis has been a steep learning curve, and having that methodological foundation from day one would have made the process much more efficient.
Start on yourself, understanding that it's a work in progress, enable to realize that if you come back or change something, it's not losing progress or losing your work, but instead it's like improving it. So I would like to, coming back, I would have liked to know better that the whole idea is like being that iterative and a continuous feedback loop improvement.
That everything you do needs a second set of eyes on it. So you need to ask for help and be proactive with your advisors to identify any gaps or issues in your writing before they snowball into something much larger.
You don't need everything figured out at the beginning. I thought that I needed a perfect idea, but the topic changes and improves over time. I also didn't realize how important it is to start early to write, even if it's not perfect. In the end, the thesis is about making a progress step by step and not getting everything right when you start.
One, to not jump around and try to stay as consistent as you can with your topic. And two is just because there's data available doesn't mean that you're able to use it. Really try and understand what that data means and what it's showing, and especially if you're using between two different data sources, they could be different.
It's pretty difficult to get a feasible but also novel research idea. We need a long-term synthesize all the findings in life to get one on them, and it's not something that if we want to get it, we just put effort and we can get it. So I think I could start early on collecting ideas on Thesis.
Consistency is the key. It's a project that is going to last for more than a normal assignment, and therefore being sure that you have interest in the topic is the key to make sure that you're going to succeed and end it and bring forward until the end.
Even like the most overwhelming challenges become manageable when broken into smaller and practical tasks. I used to think that like the most hard step of writing my thesis was like finding data, but actually like the hardest part was like interpreting this data and writing in the most like effective way to like communicate my insight. And I also think if I had to come back, is starting simple and gradually and then adding complexity after.
Make sure you can actually perform your methodology. I think a lot of us created these really unique and maybe hard methodologies only to later realize we couldn't actually perform them in the time restraints. So at the beginning, early on, make sure your project is actually feasible.
Sure that your data set actually works. I think it's kind of easy to create your project, create all the information, gather all the information, get all of your sources, and then when you go to create your data set and you need specific data, sometimes that data is not available or it will not be able to match your methodology for your project.
That your topic is probably going to change, and that's okay. I spent too much time trying to make everything perfect from the start, when in reality it's just a process of refining as you go. Another thing I suggest to do at the beginning, and which I'm glad I did, is make sure the data you want to use are available online, because that really shapes what you can actually do about your topic.
There is a massive gap between having a great idea and actually put it on paper. I thought the research would be the easy part, but turning up abstract concept into structured reality was much more complicated. Then there's statistics. Let's just say that handling a lot of data and cleaning up dataset, it was felt like learning a whole new language, and there were moments in which numbers weren't speak back.
It's completely normal that your thesis may change over time, and you may actually end up writing something completely different from your initial idea. Every time I had to rewrite my research question, my title, my methodology 3, 4, 5 times, I felt like I was actually doing so many steps backwards and not forward. And eventually I understood that later, that every little adjustment that I was doing to my thesis was actually a step forward. And that's thanks to my advisors and the professors that have followed me, because without them I don't know what it would have happened.
That your research question will keep evolving, and that's not a sign that you're doing wrong. I spent over a month going back and forth on my title, research questions, and hypothesis, and also submitted refinements multiple times, and I still ended up changing them in the final days before submission because of what my findings actually showed. So my advice, build in time for that evolution from the start. Treat early draft as the thinking tools, not just commitments, because the question you ended up defending probably won't be the one you started with.
Okay, so I started with a great question, at least I think, but I was just thinking that I'm gonna find the data later. Well, that was a mistake. So my suggestion for you is that you don't have to choose the perfect idea, but you have to choose the data set that it's not gonna betray you halfway through, as it happened for me.
I would add on to that, this process is something that is a lot of trial and error. So I would suggest to not get stuck on the idea that something is going to have a specific outcome, and just find all the data possible and do all the research to not get married on the idea that something is going to be a certain way, because sometimes it's not, and that's okay. Thank you.
Good luck!
Good luck!